Hello, new friend. How do we know each
How are
other?
you? Sorry?
How do we know each other?
Oliver Perry, but then also, who else was it? Chris Murs, but then also Jason Reagan. And so I'm like, all right, fine. I have to meet this Alex guy.
Yeah, you nailed it.
So here I am, meeting this Alex guy.
Well, nice. Welcome. I
Thank you.
I love meeting new people. That's why I do this.
That's awesome. I love it too.
Yeah. What would they say?
Just that they had a really great conversation, which was enough to sell me. Like, that's all I need to hear. Great convo, I'm in. I don't need a
Nice.
lot of convincing. So,
Okay. Well, who are you? What are your hopes and dreams?
my name is Lena. Nice to meet you. My hopes and dreams, changing the world, one child at a time, one person at a time. Let's start there.
Sure.
Who are you?
What is it that you? I'm Alex.
What makes you great?
Nothing in particular. I am a hyper extrovert, so maybe I often call myself the most extroverted person on planet Earth. So I have a fondness for people that never seems to wear. So I've been doing this for like 6 years. I
Wow.
recently made it a little bit, uh, changed the opportunity a little bit, or changed the format a little bit. But no, I'm a longtime real estate investor. I'm an army veteran turned banker turned real estate investor turned full time camera guy. I don't know where my camera is right now. And yeah, so I've been doing content and meeting people for a long time. I do a lot of events. I do a lot of media. And so I put this link out there, and I just like talking to people. And I find that also we live in a very unique moment in humanity where everybody is connected to 8 billion other people, and yet we are
Disconnected as
embarrassingly
hell.
lonely, yeah, disconnected. And people are like, oh my god, a conversation with a stranger, that's so great. I'm like, I have no agenda, no format, I don't want anything from you. I'm just like, I don't know. So I, in a weird way, I'm actually quite surprised that more people don't do this, but I think it's just the universe has been telling me more and more. It's like, for 6 years you've been doing this and nobody else has, and they've all it's become easier and easier, and people want it more and more, so you should lean into it.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think
So
more people, like, I don't know, I feel like there's this pressure everybody puts on themselves to, like, make there be an ROI on everything that they do. And what's funny is when you focus more on just genuine connection and just like, hey, I just want to talk to you and see who you are and kind of see like zero agenda, you actually get a lot more.
yeah, I call this, like, I think about it like it's scaled 101. Like, I don't do one to many very well. Like, I'm on Instagram or whatever and Facebook, but I don't really do it that well. But I can talk to quite a lot of people one on one, week to week. And I don't know. I enjoy it, and I think it's actually been very beneficial for me, like on a secondary basis, because I've gotten partners and deals out of this, out of people that I meet that have become friends. And it's not my agenda in any capacity, but you just,
If it
you
happens,
tell
it
people,
happens. If it's a good fit, it's a good fit.
yeah, you tell people long enough, you're like, I buy
I'm
real estate, and like this is what I do, and they're like, oh, I'd like to do that. Let's do it.
I'm curious too, does it feel like people blend together after a while? Or do you feel like you still have some conversations that you had that you were like, damn, like I really remember this one person, they really left an impact on me, or they like said this one thing that I really stuck to for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good question. I love individuals. I will admit that my memory is not great. So if I talk to somebody from years ago, they're like, Alex, we had that call like years ago. And I'm like, I don't remember. I apologize. And sometimes it takes a little bit to jog my memory. And that makes me actually feel a little embarrassed because I do want to remember everybody. But sometimes I'll do 14 of these calls in a week. And so it's like, I
It's a
know
lot.
that in 3 years, I'm like, we had 20 minutes or we had 30 minutes. It's going to blend. So in some ways it does blend. And I say that like on the downside. On the upside, what I do think also happens is, like, I find it very hard to believe that I'm going to forget Oliver, because now Oliver has come on here twice. I've talked to 7 people because of Oliver. I have a
I
private,
love Oliver.
yeah, me too. Well, he's also in another group that I'm part of, for military folks. I have a private WhatsApp group that he now joined. So I, I don't want to discredit, like, you got me paranoid now. Like, I feel bad when I don't remember somebody.
I think there's a disconnect in people's memory is different. And I think there's like an expectation that if I remember, you remember. And I think that that is such a false way to think.
Yeah, well,
You know
I'm
what
the
I
only
mean?
person you've ever talked to on the strangers thing, but I've talked to hundreds, thousands. So it's
Correct.
the dynamic is different. Yeah.
And
I don't
so it's not fair to expect you to remember everybody just because I remember you. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, I don't take that much social baggage with that. But I guess where I was going with it is like, hey, if you have a great conversation, then I think it's up to both parties to stay in touch. And that's why the WhatsApp group started, because I'm like, I got to start collecting some of these people because I don't want to just let them go. And relationships can't be built in 30 minutes, but they also sometimes shouldn't be forgotten just because you only had 30 minutes. So it's like, how do you just get that little bit of like, oh, we stay in touch a little bit, and then you can work together on another thing. Or a lot of what I do is events. So I always encourage people to go to a lot of events. And so if you're going to, usually for me, it's real estate, like I'll probably see you again. So that's when things start to really compound. And then if you really want me to remember you, I take a picture. If I take a picture of somebody, I'm like, I don't care if I take 9,000 photos in a weekend, it's burned into my memory forever.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. All right. Enough about me.
So
where do you live?
Me. Where do I live? Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Now we have something to talk about. I just partnered on a place in Maryland.
Nice. What part?
Chesapeake City.
I have no idea where that is.
It's not in Baltimore. It's across Kent Island. Mm-hmm. It's across
Far.
on the.
This is like an
the,
hour, 2 hours away from me. Yeah.
Oh, an hour away. It's so far, Lena.
I know.
What the heck? Well, okay. What do you do in Baltimore?
I'm an entrepreneur. I host events on entrepreneurs. So it's funny that you said that you like to go to a lot of them. I host them because I find that I don't like transactional networking. So I'm trying to break into a new space of an event where you're more real. I also run a math and reading center called Kumon. It's a franchise. Have you heard of it? No? Okay.
No.
And then I also coach entrepreneurs.
Nice. I have a friend who's doing I'm super hot on in-person meetings. Super hot on this idea. I have a buddy I'll introduce you to him. He's building out, and he's helped me build out like a whole back-end CRM that he's running an in-person meetup in DC out of now, and that's growing. It's only a few months old, but that's growing quickly. And he's running it all through Go High Level.
What's it called?
It's called Capital Creators and Champions.
Well, I haven't heard of it.
It's pretty new.
DC is closer than wherever you're trying to invest or starting to invest. That's like 45 minutes.
Well, the property that I partnered on is a 440-acre farm with a luxury event space out of that they're going to run weddings on. So it's not that's like that's a different beast. That's supposed to be out in the middle of nowhere.
I love that. That's amazing.
It's like a half a mile of waterfront. It's pretty epic.
That's the dream.
I'm going to be hosting an in-person meeting there, in-person like event there in August. That's why when you said Maryland, I was like, oh, okay.
I'll be there.
I'll tag you. Yeah, I'll make sure you get there. Yeah, in-person meetings. That's like the thing. Tell me more.
So I went to a bunch of events. I tried to network in Baltimore. It's a very protective city, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of hard to get into the scene if you don't really know anybody. Like, it's the same group of people over and over and over again. And typically they're much older. Typically everybody already knows each other. And so I felt like incredibly like an outsider and didn't even know where to start. At the same time too, it was so transactional where it was just like, here's my card, this is what I do. And I don't like to meet people that way. That's why I'm here right now, because I love to talk to people and like really get to know them and like really hear their story. That to me is so much more compelling than here's my card, this is what I do. So that was kind of the premise of starting this group. We had our 4th event actually last month. So it's brand new, but it's been really picking up steam, which is really cool too.
Nice. Congrats. What's it called?
Entrepreneurs DMV.
Entrepreneurs DMV. Dude, I got to hook you up with Tyler. You ever heard that name? Tyler Goebel? You know that person?
Nope. Not yet.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to him. It's like you guys are doing the exact same thing. I'm telling you, we're at this like cultural moment where I think people are gonna like they're quietly revolting against internet, whatever it is, like internet socializing. And I actually think people are surprisingly bad at it because they feel the anxiety in here and they feel the loneliness. And then still, I talk to people all the time. They're like, I'm shy. I don't want to go to an event. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to. they have no friends. If you look at the statistics of like, I mean, I only know the male statistics, but the male statistics of like guys who have a guys' night and guys who have best friends is like plummeting. Like it used to be like, hey, every guy was like, if something like 60% of guys said they have a best friend 30, 40 years ago, now it's like 3%. Absolutely. It's like nothing. And there's like, they don't do guys' night. It's such a, I mean, again, those are only the guys' statistics, but I assume that the women's statistics are, there's some corollary because it's not a, yeah. So, but what's interesting is I think the world needs people like you who can go off and sort of present the opportunity, because people, they have this thing just like you, and they have meetup.com and it's like, you know, $90 a year. They have Facebook, which is free 99 a year. And yet so many people don't do it. So I think it takes a little bit of, and I'm curious what you think about this. It takes a little bit of leadership, and, you know, in a way it's like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like, because I've done a bunch of meetups in different various cities. Like, it doesn't feel like leadership. It's never really felt hard for me, but for other people, I think it would be impossible without someone like you who's just going to start the meetup.
Yeah, I think for me I met a guy at a retreat that I went to about a year ago, and he runs a group called Arizona Entrepreneurs, obviously in Arizona. And I was like, this is amazing. Why can't I do this? And so I came home to Baltimore and I was like, why don't I try to do this thing? So it was that simple as like, I heard an idea, I thought it was a really cool idea, and then I just kind of ran with it. And I think the hardest part about it was just getting the balls to start. Like, just to say, hey guys, I'm doing this thing. There's the fear of like, nobody's going to show up. What am I going to say? How am I going to make this where it's not transactional? How do I get people to fall out of a pattern that they're so used to? And I did it, and here we are.
Well, how'd you get people to know about it?
I talked about it a lot on social media. I shared it with a gentleman who has a studio space that he rents out, and he has a whole mailing list. So he sent it to all of his friends. And our first one was small. We had, I think, 25 people. But what's magical is there are people from that first event who still keep coming back every month. And they become almost like ambassadors. So when you have a new person walk in and they're like, here's my business card, they're like, we don't do it like this here. And so they start to get deep, and then everybody else around them also gets deep. So it's really cool just to kind of see the transformation when they first walk in the door to when they come back to their next event. And now it's not just an event, you've got a whole group of people that's a community.
Do you have a format?
Yes. So I do.
Can you tell me what it is?
Yeah, of course. I do an icebreaker in the beginning, so like a fun game where it's like incredibly silly and feels very, very weird, but people are talking and smiling and laughing, and you can really feel like the shift in the energy. So we play that game. We do like 2 rounds. After that, I ask a question that gets people to share in groups and kind of get deep. So rather than just like, hey, what's your struggle in your business? I've asked things like, what's one thing you can do to kind of show up for yourself this month? Or I've asked, where do you feel most distracted? Like, what are the things that you feel like are holding you back from your goals? And what's really cool is everybody starts to share and gets really, really deep. And it's not just this whole like, you know, everything's going well in my business. It's like, I'm really struggling with this thing. And then they're like, oh, you need to meet this person. They do that thing. So it just flows really, really well.
I love it. That's great. That's wonderful. Good for you. Yeah, that sounds like what Tyler wanted, and that sounds like a lot what I wanted. When I moved to Las Vegas a few years ago, I went to a bunch of meetups for real estate, and they were very transactional. And I was astounded that like in a city like Las Vegas in 2017, they were run by such schmucks. And I was like, why are you guys not taking this? Is such a big opportunity for you to not just be like a thought leader in the community, but like to connect with people. Like there's like players here, and you could create something. And you're just, you know, I went to one, the guy's like I you know, he was getting stoned before he gets on stage to like present. And I'm like, I don't really care. I don't really care, but I'm like, you're not taking this seriously. I know that.
Or he's really nervous.
Yeah.
No?
Nervous is okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm not nothing against weed. I like weed, but it was just, to me, it just seemed like there was an opportunity for it. To me, it seemed like he wasn't taking the initiative to be very present. You can be nervous, but like,
I see. You're trying to disconnect rather than connect.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you're nervous. We get it. That's okay. What's not okay? Anyways, no, it wasn't a judgment. It was just for me. I saw an opportunity. So what I did was I went and I started. I really wanted to segment out people because I can be very polarizing, and so I was like, okay, this really isn't. I'm not going to be for everybody, and if I'm going to host this, I got to find my people. Which after 5 years, I've learned how to do that a little bit better. But basically, what I said was, we're going to do it at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning in Las Vegas, when there's still people doing cocaine from Saturday night at that time in Las Vegas. So I was like, okay, they won't come, they won't show up. That'd be good. They just and it started out like 4 or 5 people, and we just showed up every week, and then it ended up being like 40 people, which for Sunday morning at 8 a.m. was a lot. And then they would stay. We just commandeered this little coffee shop, and we would stay till like 1 in the afternoon. It was wonderful, and people just have these really long, in-depth conversations about. It would devolve into politics and religion, which I liked, but so it's interesting the way you explain that, because I'm like, oh, this sounds so familiar, and I think, yeah, I don't know how I can help, but yeah, I'm very happy for you. It sounds great.
Thanks. I'm really excited. I think one of the things that I struggle with is this idea that it has to grow and get bigger every single time. And I have a friend who's doing the same kind of events in Charlotte, and I went to one of his events actually 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I was like, wow, I am putting pressure on myself like there's no tomorrow. Like, I have to have name tags, and they have to be beautiful, and I have to have cookies that are branded, and I have to have this and that and a slideshow. And it's this whole production, and people actually connect just fine without all of that. So I think for me, it was a big thing of like, dude, like, calm down, you're fine. It doesn't need to be 400 people. Just because it's not doesn't mean that it's not working. Also, this is just your 4th event, so chill.
Yeah,
I think hearing that it just takes time.
Yeah, if you show up and you give a shit about people, that supersedes name tags by a long shot. I personally hate name tags. I never wear them. Anyways, so dude, that's great. I love that. I'm gonna introduce you to Tyler, because I think he's doing the exact same thing. You guys will have a similar vibe, and he's doing it in DC.
I love it.
And then tell me about your other projects.
So Kumon is like I said, a math and reading center. I've done that. That was kind of my first dip into entrepreneurship. So started that 9 years ago. Been doing it ever since. It's been really interesting to see how kind of schools and the system has changed since COVID, and just in general, as kind of kids have changed a lot. Staffing has changed a lot. So, I kind of get a front row seat to seeing what people talk about now and kind of how kids are molded now. So that's kind of been really interesting.
I don't have kids, but that all scares the shit out of me. Yeah, yeah. That seems like a very hard problem. So I don't have any input because I don't have kids. So I just don't step into things I don't know anything about.
I don't have kids either yet, but.
Oh, really?
It's still.
How did you get into this
really
then?
Interesting. I worked at a center. So I was in college and I decided that I wanted to help kids with math. I don't know what compelled me, but I just had this like weird feeling that I wanted to go and do this thing. Didn't want to be a teacher. Don't like the system. Hate all of that. And ended up at a center called Kumon. My boss was my idol. Like, he is amazing. He's very generous. He was just like such a good human, and I also really loved how he ran the business. So I really looked up to him, and eventually, so I worked for him for 6 years, and then he's like, you need to start one of these. And I was like, yeah, my parents said that I have to be a nurse or a doctor. Like, I don't know. I've never owned a business. I don't know what I'm doing. And here I am.
Is it going well?
Yeah, it's going really, really well.
Dude, good for you. Dude, I love this. This is my... Yeah, when you asked me earlier, like, hey, did people forget it, like become like molded, like blend together? I'm like, sometimes, but some people are so interesting. This is an interesting story. And then, yeah, and then you said you coach entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going?
So I hired a coach about 2 years ago at this point, and I wasn't necessarily, I find that most people that I talk to hire a coach when they're at a point where they're like stuck or feeling like shit, or like there's something going terribly wrong in their lives. I didn't necessarily feel that way. I just wanted to learn more about investing. And so I was like, I don't know anything about investing. I don't feel like I'm an adult because, like, yes, I have business, but I don't have a 401k because I have a business. And so like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to invest. I don't know how to do real estate investing. All of that is so foreign to me. And so I hired a coach, and, you know, yes, we talked about investing, but we also talked about like scarcity and how I run my business and how I am addicted to working and not knowing how to stop. So, so going through all of that, I think kind of opened my eyes and definitely got me to think on a deeper level, much more than I had ever thought. Like, how do I talk to myself? How do I talk to the people around me? What do I expect from them? Why do I expect that from them? How do I set boundaries? And so all of that kind of really inspired me. It changed how I view my life, and it changed a lot of my life drastically. So now I want to do the same for other people.
Dude, that's great too. Dude, I can't help you with any of this stuff. You're doing great. You could probably help me.
That's fine. Happy to help you however I can.
Yeah, I've never hired a coach. I've come close a few times. The problem I have is all the entrepreneurial coaches I run into are always desperate for money, and that is a turnoff for me. I'm like, I agree. I feel like
they're salesy, or
they, admittedly, it's maybe a little bit of a weird bias. I'm like, you know, if you were as good as you think you are at this, then like it seems like they need coaching more than they would help coaching. That being said, I understand life is more complicated than that, and the football coach doesn't have to be the best player and those sort of things. But to what I did was I started therapy, and that is not the exact same thing, but man, that shit helps. I'm surprised how much that helps.
I had the opposite experience, and I think that's why I liked coaching so much. I hired a therapist, and I was like, man, we're just like digging so, but like, I don't think that I had a good therapist. I just found like we just kept trying to go back, and she's like, well, you know, let's talk about your parents. And I was like, I'm not mad at my parents. All parents try their best. All parents are doing the best that they can. Like, I don't want to go back and blame anybody. I just want to know, how do I not think this way anymore? How do I not hold a grudge? How do I get past this?
Yeah. You ever done breath work?
Yes. Oh my God. I went to this weird thing just like recently. No. Oh
tell
my
me,
God.
Tell me.
Literally last week. Oh my God. So there's this guy like
who hosted it?
Vitaly.
No.
Have you heard of him? No. Vitality or something like that. So first of all, I have no idea what the hell I'm getting myself into. Like, zero idea. My guy friend was like, hey, let's go to this thing. And I was like, okay. And he's like super cool guy, like definitely not, you know, woo.
Woo is the right word.
I was like, what word am I looking for here? Online, some of the videos that this guy posts, the guy who was the host, people are literally like screaming, crying, almost like going through some sort of like exorcism thing. And so I was like, what am I getting myself into? I did no research. I was just like, he told me to buy a ticket. I bought a ticket. So I show up.
Good for you.
I drive to DC. I show up. It's a conference room. We've got like probably, I don't know, 200 people with yoga mats and pillows and eye masks. And I was like, what is happening? So we all kind of sit down. He shows us how to breathe. And then we put our blindfolds on, and then there's this like loud music, and he's like telling us how to breathe. And then people are like crying, screaming. And I'm just like, so I will say, I felt like I definitely went somewhere for part of it. Have you done like a float tank?
No, I've not done a float tank now.
In a float tank, I've done it probably 3 times at this point. You can't tell if your eyes are closed or open because it's so dark in there, and I start to like see things. It was the same kind of thing. So it was very interesting. Like, I definitely left being like, I'm not sure what just happened, but I definitely felt something.
So I'll try to keep it quick. I got about 4 minutes, but we'll get vulnerable here. So last year, my company did 3 events, and this guy comes to all these events, a guy named Ryan Kennedy, and he does breath work each morning. And I skipped it because I was always busy, and I was like, okay, breath work, it sounds a little foo-foo. I'm sure it's great, but I missed it. What do you want to tell you? And so then he's like, hey, this last time, he's like, hey, dude, you got to do this. You'd like this. And I was like, all right. Everybody raves about it. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I had high expectations. And I hadn't done therapy before. And I really didn't know what to expect. But I definitely had I wasn't suspicious. And normally I'm suspicious. But everybody had done it. I know the guy. So I'm like, well, it's breathing. It's going to be fine. Dude. And dude, I've done a lot of self-reflection work. I've done all the psychedelics. Like, I'm not immune to, I don't think of myself as a blocked off person. And so I do 2 days of this. So the first day is like, it's guided. Like you said, it's music. He's talking you through it and you're doing this breathing. It's about 45, 50 minutes and it's hard because you got to like do those deep breaths. And I'm like, okay. And the end, he said, I'm just like trying to breathe. And at the very end, when all the blood rushes back in, he starts giving you these commands. And the commands were like, hey, there's somebody in your life that you have to forgive, whatever. And my fucking dad comes up. And my dad and I had a very tumultuous relationship from the time I was 13 to the time he died in 2022, right? Basically a year before I went to breathwork. And it was toxic. This is very vulnerable. It was toxic the whole way. And then he passed and it never got resolved. And there was never going to be a resolution. And even if he was alive today, we couldn't resolve it. It's just like this. Anyways, breathwork gets me to forgive him.
Wow.
Right? I apologize. I forgive him. And I swear, Lena,
I start crying. That's beautiful.
I let that I'm like, I wake up, I'm blabbering like a child, right? Like a baby. I was like, dude, I feel like I just was dragging around an 800-pound anchor that I just let it go. And then I haven't picked it back up and I'm like cured of this just thing. And then the next day was something similar where it was like more of like self-empowerment. So I was like, dude, the first day I dropped this anchor, the second day I got wings and like, I don't know. It's been magical ever since. Like, I'm like, that was one shot, one kill. Like, I feel great now, that was cured me. So
yeah, this guy says at the very, very start, he's like, I hope you don't come back.
Yeah.
He's like, if I do what I'm supposed to do, you are not coming back.
Yeah. I could go back, but I would probably have to wait a year or 18 or 2 years or something like that, 18 months, because I'm like, it ends up being like, it's like you have a great experience. I don't know if you do drugs, but you have a great experience on drugs. You're like, man, I'd like that again. And you're like, yeah, a little that goes a long way. It's not the same. Yeah. You're just chasing this thing. And then it kind of ruins the meaningful first experience. So sorry that you didn't have Ryan Kennedy, but breathwork it's more potent than therapy, but therapy is actually very good, like maintenance, certainly for me. But coaching, yeah. I'd love to, I don't know. I'm still learning about it.
I think there's a lot of people who coach. There's a lot of people who are out there who do it. Everybody's got their own style, and everybody kind of thinks of it in a different way, if that makes sense. Like some people think of it that it's just like therapy. Some people think that it's more like, let's kind of go into all of the patterns that you have. And others are like, I want to be an advisor in your life. And, I know I'm going to know you very, very well and kind of run stuff by you. And that's that. So yeah, I think it's all based on what you want.
It's kind of like, you said you had a bad therapist and then a weird breathwork person. And, I've had kind of good of each. So, and then I've met a lot of what I consider, I don't know if they're bad coaches, but they don't instill very much confidence in me to sign up. So it's like it's the person, it's who, it's the who. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, all right, my friend, I got to split. This was wonderful, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
Is there anything else? Is there anything I can do to make your life better?
Refer me the breathwork person you used.
Oh yeah. Let's
see if I can go to an event.
Dude, I'll put it on my to-do list right now. I'm going to send you a Tyler as well. This is going to sound so foo-foo of me. What's your Myers-Briggs?
I don't remember. I can tell you my Enneagram.
What's your Enneagram?
I think I'm an 8.
Me too. We're friends. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. Enneagram 8. Yeah.
Good conflict.
All conflict is good conflict.
I agree with you. I'm not scared of it. That's the difference. That's why we go to events. We're like, fuck yeah, bring on the conflict.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up? Did you grow up in Baltimore? Yeah. Nice. All right. I'll send you an email. Let me introduce some people. We'll stay in touch. Dude, it's tremendous to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.